Gerry Byrne is a decorated Vietnam veteran who represents what so many veterans bring to the world long after the uniform comes off: resilience, perspective, and steady leadership. Like countless Vietnam-era service members, he didn't receive the welcome home he earned, but he kept moving forward, building a life rooted in purpose and service. Today, he serves as vice chairman at Penske Media, and in this conversation, he shares an uplifting, grounded look at character, gratitude, and the kind of strength that veterans carry into every chapter of life. Vietnam veteran, decorated Vietnam veteran, Marine. And I just felt like we had to connect and get you out to the Military Veteran Entertainment Awards, because we also, in parallel to just giving awards out, we want to show other military veterans that are out there in just society doing some things. So how did you end up becoming vice chairman? Or you want to start with what happened in Vietnam, or talk a little bit about?
No, thank you for the kind introduction, but you know, I'm a kid from the Bronx, New York, grew up about a block from the Yankee Stadium, and I went to a high school called Fordham Prep. It was the prep school for Fordham University. And when I went there, track was my, kind of like sideline, which I enjoyed thoroughly. And the reason I enjoyed track, it was you against you, a very unique sport in that regard. But the guys I ran with, three of them who were a bit older than I went on to Fordham University and became extraordinary, nationally recognized track athletes. And when I was going into my senior year at Fordham Prep, I see these three guys, walking along the parade ground at the Fordham campus, and there was something happened to them, like they were kidnapped and they were indoctrinated. Something was different about them. So I went up to them and I said, "Hey guys, what goes on here?" I said, "You're different." And the three of them had just returned from 12 weeks in Quantico. They had joined the PLC program. Wow. And they had, spent the entire summer, earning, they were an officer candidate program. And as soon as I spoke to them for 5 minutes, I said, I just wanted to be one of these guys. Now, this was, 1962, and, nothing going on. It was kind of like peaceful. And so I did indeed join the Marine Corps as soon as I went to Fordham and went to Quantico and whatnot. And then when I graduated, I was commissioned, and, the timing was not good, in that, Vietnam was at a crescendo. And so I wound up in Vietnam, all of 68 and a little bit of 69. And when I got home, I had a job on Wall Street, and I had been an economics major, and it was a mess. Wall Street was a mess. The economy was a mess. But I had one interview, which was the interesting story, with the New York Daily News. The New York Daily News at the time was a family-owned business, 3.5 million circulation on Sunday, largest newspaper in the United States. And the three people who interviewed me at the News were all Korean War combat veterans.
Interesting.
And they looked at me, after they got to know me a little bit, they looked at me kind of like a rescue dog. And they saw, without me saying it or them exploring it, they knew that I was a Marine Corps Viet vet, and they could detect, because of who they were, that I was struggling to get stability and focus, and it's because of these three individuals that I went to work for the Daily News, and they protected me, they guided me.
That's great.
They adopted me, veteran. That's great. On veterans.
Well, let me pause you right there, if you don't mind. What did you do in Vietnam? What was your MOS?
I was involved with radar control bombing, and I ran the airfield at Marble Mountain outside of Da Nang, and then.
Wow! So you're in country.
Oh yeah, no,
right.
Yeah, it was a rather active time.
I bet.
While I was there. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to also interject, and talk about Vietnam as to at least me personally why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
My dad was in Vietnam, and he came home and he had some issues. We didn't know about that Vietnam. His experience in Vietnam affected him probably like 20 to 30 years later. Actually, we didn't know that the Agent Orange had the effect on him, and I think America was struggling with itself in diagnosing it, et cetera, et cetera. It's been a controversial topic and issue. But in addition to that, when I was in the Marine Corps stationed in Okinawa, Japan, we were gearing up to go to Saudi Arabia because of the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
And I remember the nation kind of, not even a coordinated effort, but it just happened. Like there was this sentiment, this almost responsibility that we're not going to treat the veterans when they come home from the conflict like the way we treated the Vietnam veterans. And I never forgot that. And I remember also, after I got out, going to the VA hospital here in West Los Angeles and seeing the Vietnam veterans waiting for so long to get treated. And it just took a while before that started to improve. So I believe that the Vietnam veterans sacrifice a lot, not just over there, but over here as well. And so that's why it's sort of a cause that we have at the American Legion and the Military Veteran Awards to either remind or educate our society about the Vietnam veteran. And I got to tell you, I have 3 TikTok accounts, one personal, one for a streaming channel, and I have one just dedicated to Vietnam veterans or Vietnam veteran content. That's the most active. This is TikTok, younger generation, and that is the most active account I have. Every time I put something up, 5,000 views, 10,000 views, 100,000 views, because I believe that there is a nation of regret, and it's also passed down to the next generation. My dad, my grandfather. I welcome home, that sort of stuff. We don't like the way you were treated. So, and I think there's like 500,000 or 600,000 left. So part of what we want to do is honor the Vietnam veteran and the service. So sorry for that long dialogue there.
No. I won't argue the point, but I've come to realize that, I mean, all veterans, regardless
That's
of,
right, yeah.
Need to be respected for what they've done. And during Vietnam, the animosity or the confusion of the American public, they didn't know where to turn their anger toward. So men and women in uniform were as good a target as any. And when I kind of understood that, it wasn't difficult to deal with. Nothing was as personal as it, could have been. So, but I just think that, anyone who serves, and I think I'm an advocate for every man and woman 18 years old and over.
And I agree with that.
Should serve 2 years of service. Doesn't even have to be military, whether it's Teach America or whatever, just to get a better appreciation of what the country's all about. I mean, I remember being in Vietnam with a young Marine Corps sergeant, and he was adjacent to me, in a rather strenuous situation, and he said, "Lieutenant, can I light your?" I had a cigarette in my mouth, and he said, "Can I light your cigarette?" And I said, "Most certainly." So he lights my cigarette, lights his own, and he shows me he had a Zippo lighter in his hand, and he said, "You ever see this before?" And I said, "What's it?" So I read this inscription on the Zippo lighter, and on the lighter it said, "For those who have fought for it, freedom has a taste the protected will never know." I had to say it twice so I didn't forget it, and it's that incorporates not just the Marine Corps and all services, but it's men and women who are in fire departments and who serve communities, and I just think we have to have more respect for those individuals. I mean, but I kind of like buried the fact that I was a veteran for a very long time, and then ultimately what brought me out was I got involved with a theater company in New York called the Vietnam Veterans Ensemble Theater Company. Myself and the chairman of Home Box Office at the time, Michael Fuchs, he and I were co-chairmen as at the theater. We did off-Broadway, off-Broadway. But we did a documentary called Dear America, Letters Home from Vietnam. And if you haven't seen it, it is extremely worth watching it. It won HBO an Emmy. But what it was the New York Vietnam Veterans Memorial, which was created in 1984, 85, is in Water Street in Manhattan, in downtown New York. And it's 40 letters that are inscribed in a glass wall in this memorial, and they were letters home, written from the troops to their families, and we made this into a memorial, and then these letters, were formed into a documentary film, read by Robert De Niro and Harvey Keitel and Kathleen Turner.
Now, where can we see that?
You can. I know you can get it. I know you can get it online.
Okay, what's the title again?
Dear America, Letters Home from Vietnam.
Okay, so
we'll
put that on the screen.
It's really fantastic,
right.
and it's but that kind of like started me on my progression to, get involved with veterans. And at the same time or thereabouts, I wound up on the board of the Intrepid in New York, which a good friend of mine was involved in bringing to New York, Zachary Fisher, and the Intrepid, coincidentally, which I'm still on the board of, when we were calling in air support in Vietnam, the A-4s were flying off the Intrepid in the Gulf of Tonkin. So that's a full circle to think that this aircraft carrier that I'm part of was actually on active duty with me when I was in Vietnam.
Wow. So your veteran experience kind of indirectly affected a lot of your relationships. And I'd like to get back to the Korean veterans that were protecting you.
Yeah.
And so that was the Daily Mail?
New York Daily News.
New York Daily News.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, how did things progress for you? Because you're a big media guy now, and and you probably didn't even plan this. It just organically. Well, I don't know. Maybe you did.
No.
How did this?
I just, I then after the news, I was there for a few years, and I wound up going to work for Advertising Age, and I was with Crane Communications, and I started a publication in the entertainment business called Electronic Media in 1982, and then in New York, I started Crane's New York Business. But after 14 years with the Crane family, I kind of for the first time, woke up and said, it's a family business and my name is not Crane. So I said it was, and then interestingly enough, I went to work for Norman Lear. And Norman Lear had a company called Act 3 Communications, and we owned 600 movie theaters. When I was there, we did Stand By Me, Princess Bride, Fried Green Tomatoes.
Wow.
We owned a bunch of television stations and some media properties. But again, the veteran component came into my time with Norman was that, he and I had this wonderful relationship that we never spoke about because he was a combat veteran from World War II, flew, I think, 50 missions in a B-17 as a door gunner in, Eastern Europe. And so amazing, number one, that he survived, but he knew my experience without me talking about it. I knew his experience without me talking about it, but we had an extraordinary affinity. And again, this is just a veterans-based affinity because,
yes,
we served. And it's something that I respect entirely because, the thing that you get out of serving is, without really knowing it, is that you get a master's degree in leadership. Because if you're going to be in the military and do it the right way, you have to be embedded with integrity and ethics and, cornerstone values that allow you to lead and be trusted as a leader. And that stayed with me. And I preach those values more than ever, even in today's environment, because of what we see in the overall landscape, which is disturbing to me. But, its leadership is an extraordinary thing, and taking time to be in the service, to be with people, and and it goes across the ranks. You don't have doesn't.
I agree.
It's just
I agree.
It doesn't matter.
It's so rich in lessons in the military. For me, particularly, I like to say, or proud or glad. I have a good friend, Rick, who's sitting over there, and he said, the Marine Corps was the best mistake I ever made. Because sometimes we join the military out of like, I need a job or in my case, I was expecting my first child at 19, so I knew that I wanted to be responsible. But, I did not know that about Norman Lear.
Yeah.
I did not know that. And did you just say that he was a door gunner?
Yeah.
Whoa.
A door gunner, and he just he never really spoke in any detail about it, but he knew what I knew what he knew,
Right.
and there was just enormous respect between both of us, and it gave me tremendous comfort in the years that I worked for him. And then when I left him, I went to Variety, and I was publisher of Variety for the next 12 years.
Oh,
after
wow.
that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Oh, so real quickly, and I want to get back to Variety.
Yeah.
But a lot of people didn't know this, and I learned this through almost happenstance in starting to get involved with media. And by the way, the only reason why, or one of the biggest reasons why I got involved in media recently, is because I felt like the veteran narrative could use some adjustment.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of talented veterans out there that I'd like to see if I can help elevate, or we all together can work at even creating our own market. But what I learned about the door gunner was that I just think it's fascinating. It really wasn't a job at first. So especially when the Huey was coming in, or whatever aircraft was coming in order to help off any incoming, and I think it was just some guy in the helicopter that wasn't his job. He just took a gun, and so then it became a job and a skill, and so that's the door gunner. So the door gunner is protecting people and firing stuff off, firing rounds off. So just wanted people to know that it's a scary situation because you're taking it and you're also dishing it out.
Particularly, as time went on, and in Vietnam, it was,
my goodness,
it was, the role of the door gunner was essential.
Absolutely,
and because it was a helicopter war, so every place you'd go, whether it was 46s or Hueys, and the role that the door gunners played in protecting, us poor, passengers was
and for people to know as well. This is another thing I learned, is that in and out, it's by the Huey. That's it, right? In country, it came in, and so that's why the door gunner was so significant. All right, back to publishing, Variety, which is to this day out there. In fact, they did a story on us, American Legion and American Veterans Awards. How was that experience? Because I got to tell you, before you answer that, there's a lot of us on this side of Los Angeles, because you have Hollywood east of us, not too far. Well, we're kind of turned off a little bit by some of the celebrity personalities. We love the movies, but to see them comment on stuff, there's a bit of, I want to be kind here, it's just a little bit off-putting. But at the same time, celebrities and people in film, media, have opportunity to raise awareness, provide voice, provide information through entertainment, or just outright saying stuff. So how did you deal with some of those folks being on that level?
It's a larger question, and it's kind of like when I was with Advertising Age. Advertising Age is the business publication of the advertising business. Variety is the business publication of the entertainment business. News, information, and data. That's the Variety cornerstone. And it was a family business until, 1988. And when the family sold it to Reed Elsevier, they found me, and I came in to be the first publisher of Variety that wasn't part of the Silverman family. And it's a global business. And again, it's about the business of of entertainment, creating content, distribution, marketing, the whole bit. So I never have viewed, celebrity like I was working for People Magazine or Entertainment Weekly. I mean, celebrity is a component
Right,
of
that's true. That's true.
Of the business,
Yeah.
and that's always stayed with me. At Penske, where
So it sounds like there's a separation.
no,
You're-
there's a total
yeah,
separation,
yeah.
and even when I was one of the founders of Tribeca in New York with Bob De Niro.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And when I started the Marine Corps birthday party in New York 28 years ago, I started it with Harvey Keitel. And Harvey and I, were just obsessed with making sure that the Marine Corps had an extraordinary birthday party in New York.
I love it.
And we've been doing it, kind of like ever since. So I don't know. I don't.
Well, I'm going to the next one.
Oh yes. Oh no. Put it down. I mean, but the thing is that there's a community out there that. Celebrity is one thing, and there are celebrities who extraordinarily they're wonderful because they utilize their creativity and their talents, to support the veteran. I mean, in 2003, I went to Iraq with a group that included Gary Sinise, and Gary, that was his first trip, and as a result of his going, he has become unbelievably involved with the veterans.
He's been here. He's been here a couple times.
Oh,
actually.
he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. And we had a small group, and Bob De Niro was on the trip with us, and we one day I'll never forget that I took a group of about 12. We were staying in Kuwait, and I flew up to Baghdad, and the airport had just been taken, and we were going up, I thought, to just sign autographs, and we only had there was 10 of us on this C-130 that took us up there. So we arrive in 120-degree Baghdad, go over to this gigantic hangar, and there were about 1,500 people in the hangar hanging off trucks and helicopters. They had built a stage, they had 2 microphones, they had speakers, they had a set of drums, and they were expecting the people I was with to put on a show, and I was kind of like the, in charge of the visit. So we walked in, but I was with Kid Rock. Kid Rock goes up onto the stage. The place is going batty.
Sure, yeah.
And he grabs a microphone and says to the community, that you guys want to hear music, right? And the place goes wild. And well, we're going to give you some music. Gary Sinise grabs the microphone from Kid Rock and says, I hope everybody here knows who I am. And I'm going, oh my God, and then he holds the microphone out, and 1,500 people at the same time say, Lieutenant Dan. And,
Oh, yeah,
And
of course.
he has a band called Lieutenant Dan's Band.
That's
So
right.
he gets on a guitar. John Stamos was with us, and he walks over to the drums because he was the Beach Boys drummer for 10 years.
I didn't know that.
And
No.
and they put on a jam session. That was just Alyssa Milano, and they were doing back. Oh, it was just extraordinary.
Super special, sounds
But
like.
yeah, but it was. I only brought it up because it was, extraordinary talent. Utilizing their gift in a really positive way. So it had nothing to do with ego. It had everything. These are veterans. These guys are in a combat zone. We just have to support them, and that's what That's what Gary and the others, did.
Well, I gotta tell you, and I'm sure you agree with this, that the veteran community really, really appreciates that. I mean, just so much so. It's so precious, because sometimes veterans do want to have either some sort of cause or message out there, and if they can't do it, and someone has a platform, and also if they're recognizable, it just makes it even precious. And the reason why I say that was because we were trying to get Dennis Quaid to come to May 24th, and he was unavailable. But he said his public relations person said, he'll do a video. I was just so. We were all so appreciative just because of that video.
Yeah, totally.
Just because of the video, it was
totally.
there he is, thanking veterans and wishing us a good time. And I think you saw it. I don't know if you remember. We played it. And
No,
so,
I saw it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's very much appreciative. So I do recognize, in spite of, expressing some frustration that we kind of need partners, as we move along in life, and especially veterans.
I agree, and it's I mentioned Sinise but Adam Driver's a good friend, and I mean he's a Marine who's just turned into an extraordinary success. But he's been involved in supporting veterans.
I've seen him.
The longest time.
Right.
Rob Riggle, another one.
Right.
A Marine. I lean toward the Marines, but there's a community out there that's just constantly looking for ways to support the veteran, which I think is great. And we try to do that more and more with our efforts at Penske. And we've been around for 20 years, but we also own the Golden Globes and we own the American Music Awards. And the American Music Awards, we moved to Memorial Day in this year. And the reason we moved it to Memorial Day was to celebrate the veteran. Moved it to Las Vegas. It was an extraordinary show. CBS broadcast it and will for the next 5 years, but the ratings were, through the roof. And I've integrated a whole bunch of veteran service organizations into the show, and we've done variety salute to services. We own Rolling Stone, so we've gotten Rolling Stone involved in supporting the veterans community, and it's just I think it's just a good thing to do. It's
not only that, what I'm hoping that what we can do on our what we're doing on this side with Military Veterans Awards, National Academy of, we're calling it the National Entertainment Academy for Military Awards, is also create content that is entertainment at a level where you're looking at the veteran community also in a different way, in a sense that they are also part of the entertainment sector, because there's a lot of them out there. I mean, I have 250 films, and that's just, I would call a B- type effort in getting them in. So there's a lot of content out there that we'll be curating and hopefully get back out there to show the public, man, check this out. And I'm hoping what may come out of that is maybe, again, a bit of an adjustment on the narrative and how we view veterans in this way. And you follow me here. When I got out of high school, and I'll bet you it was, well, maybe similar to you, when I got out of high school, it was an option to join the military. Of course, my dad said, whatever you do, do not join the Marine Corps. he did say that. He was in the Air Force. Yeah. But it was an option. Yeah. The commercials with the Army, be all you can be. The Marines with that white sword. With the sword and the white glove. Air Force with the planes, and the Army with the guy jumping out of the helicopter or the plane. So it was just an option. And now I don't see it as a popular option. And that's just me. And then there's other people that do agree with this. It's not just, it's like, it's not looked at as it once was. And I'm hoping that the veteran community, all of us can say, hey, no, we're pretty cool. We're productive people in society.
Yeah, we have to sell ourselves.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
We at the same time, need there to be a voice, across, the American landscape that says service is good. That you take a lot away from serving, and
oh, absolutely,
and energy and skill sets and back to what I think is so important, the values of integrity and ethics, and which are cornerstone values, and that's what service does. I'm optimistic that we will.
I agree.
We'll kind of get.
Well, you and I are talking.
Yeah. Go. I think it's important.
Right, and the other thing too is, and you probably take this for granted, as I do as well, that in the military, and you hear about it a lot. In fact, there was a time if someone got in trouble and they were before a judge, they would say, "You're either going to jail or you're going to the Marines," that sort of thing. But I love the fact that the Marine Corps taught me some discipline. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely love that, because before I joined the Marine Corps, I was getting up at 2:00 in the afternoon, staying up late, partying, in and out of college. And of course, as I said earlier, I was expecting my first child, Sierra, who's an attorney today. I'm very proud of her. But the Marine Corps shaped me up. It really, really did. And, you know, I don't know, I'm sure it was, you were in the real Marine Corps, because what I heard when I joined the Marines, it was a little soft with suntan lotion coming out of San Diego.
Yeah.
But no, it's all a bit rough. But in the Marines, they were to teach us that if you're on time, you're late. So you got to be there early.
Yeah.
And so it's something I struggle with today as well. But just in general, I really just love this whole disciplinary aspect of it, you know, of having a commitment, that integrity to follow through on that commitment, a job. Even if you're mopping the dang floor, do it well. You know, those are the type of things that I learned.
Yeah, there's no downside to being part of it. I mean, and it's...
Yeah, 100%.
And you learn disciplines, and the other thing we haven't met, I mean, it's a teamwork situation, you know, that...
That's the other aspect that I love.
It's, you know, and when you embed that into who you are, your ability to lead because you've earned a respect with the people who are with you, it just makes a dramatic difference, you know, and you really walk away from the military with that, you know, embedded in your personality.
And I like what you said about leadership, because growing up, you know, my dad was really hard on me, so I was a bit timid. Although I was always an extrovert and excitable, being a leader didn't come that easy, because I was more of listen to be told what to do versus telling someone else what to do. And boy, in the Marine Corps, I mean, they put you in charge of cleaning the squad bay, or in my case, platoon commander, because I was military police, all this other stuff. You're almost forced into it, thrusted into it, but there's enough there that you can pick off on how to react because of policy. There's just always someone above you that you can call and ask. You know, I've had various situations where I've had to reach out to a superior person. Hey, what do I do here? So yeah, that leadership aspect is just priceless. You can't get it out of an MBA in school. But last thing here, where are you at today? I know where you are, but just explain for the people who may be watching, what are you doing these days? You know, we commented earlier, you're on a plane a lot, and it sounds exciting, but sometimes like, no, I'd rather be home. Anyway, what's it like for you today, sir?
It's very interesting, because the business that I'm involved with, you know, is changing, you know, on an hourly basis. You know, it's, you know, the entertainment business, in fact, so we kind of like own news, information, and data surrounding the entertainment business, because we own not just Variety, we own the Hollywood Reporter, we own the Deadline, we own IndieWire, and so people in the business who are looking for credible, actionable information, they find it with our brands. But, you know, between a few years ago, the strike, and then, you know, the fires, the dramatically transforming studio situation, which is existing literally as we speak, and AI thrown into the mix has really just changed the entire landscape. I mean, you know, there's more production, in fact, being done in New York than there is in Los Angeles. I mean, and it also has to do with this, with the tax situations and states fighting each other, and globally, it's a big time business. So, what, you know, if I would describe myself with any significant role, it's making sure that, you know, our leadership inside the company, this is taking me back to the Marines, you know, are you know, qualified, incentivized, and they feel that they're, you know, part of a family that has goals and objectives that are going to, you know, make a difference. And we try to not just make a difference with our brands, but socially. We try to, you know, put out examples of how to do the right thing. So that's what I try to do.
I find that extremely fascinating, because I almost seem like there may even be a dichotomy here, because when you hear about the entertainment industry and publishing, you do hear that people look out for themselves first, because it's a very aggressive industry, that sort of thing. And you're saying, in spite of all of that, and I know there's a separation between exactly what you do and the entertainment when it comes to someone in front of the camera, behind the camera, director, writer, et cetera, what you're describing is a really beautiful foundation of a company that the values that you've just described are in place. And that almost used to be the norm. And the reason why I'm saying I'm finding this very fascinating is it doesn't seem like it's the norm anymore. You belong to a company. You're scared if the company's going to survive. You're scared if you're going to get paid. You're scared if you're going to get fired. I mean, I hear a lot of this just all throughout.
Well, in the media business, which I'm describing, there's business to consumer and there's business to business. Business to business is really what we do. So we own Women's Wear Daily, so we kind of like own the fashion business. We own Billboard, we own Rolling Stone. It's the business of music, the business of entertainment, the business of fashion, retail. We own Robb Report, we own Art News, Art Forum. So the world of luxury on a business to business basis is what our realm is. And in the best of times and the worst of times, people who are in any of these businesses need accurate news, information, and data. That's what we do. And certain times are tougher than others.
I bet, yeah.
This being one of them in the entertainment business. But, we're very enthusiastic about, future opportunities. And we do 420 live events a year.
Wow.
We own South by Southwest as well, and South by is not just in Austin, Texas, where it, started, but it's also in Australia, and last year we launched it in London.
You know what also I'm hearing is that it doesn't seem like there's any hesitation from your company's part in moving laterally, right? Because some companies are slow to move for various different reasons, and flexibility, bandwidth, and moving laterally, or even thrusting into a new environment that for a lot of reasons it makes sense. That's pretty impressive.
Well, it goes back to, it all has to do with leadership, and it has to do with vision. And, we have the wonderful good fortune of, my colleague who I revere, Jay Penske, who had the vision 21 years ago, and I've been with him for that length of time. He saw an opportunity when the world that we live in was, becoming a digital, driven world. And when we acquired Deadline and Variety, and we already had a very, integrated, working digital platform to integrate these brands into. So, and Jay's just an outstanding leader. I mean, he is. He's got great integrity. He's smart, and he has a good sense of where things are going, and we do it as a team, and that's the part that I think really.
No, like I said, I can't say it enough how impressive that is compared to, again, a lot of what you hear out with some of those companies, and the synergy that you guys have created on a massive scale. It's almost unachievable in a lot of companies from what I see, and that's just little old me. One small tangent again before we close. I tend to close this out, but you mentioned the fashion business. We did a fashion show in May on November 8th as part of our event over Veterans Day. We didn't know what we were doing. At least I didn't. But one of the partners said she just had this idea of doing a fashion show as part of the opening for the Military Veteran Short Awards. And what an eye-opening experience it was. And now I think we're going to, that will be a part of what we do. So we're already scheduling October of next year in and around Fashion Week to do another fashion show. Yeah. And what this brought out was this. First of all, I love fashion. I couldn't design, I'm not a designer, but I appreciate different attire and just fashion. We had veteran designers, and we had veterans did the runway. Not all of them, but most of them. Yeah. And you know what the most precious moment was for me, for all of us? to see women veterans walking down the runway who typically wouldn't be doing that because they're not fitting a certain profile. And then them having a roar of applause because of their courage and what everything we were doing represented. It represented courage, the designer itself, the woman herself, the military, the veteran aspect to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is another aspect to, and we don't want to get too crazy, so we'll stay in several, concentrate in several areas. But I think that's going to be one of them. I was just so blown away and touched by.
Well, I think what you're doing and the vision, what I would, in all of these areas, it's good to also think about, what are the partnerships that you can create, and as you move forward, because there are so many, companies like us or brands that are out there that are looking, to highly impact different kinds of markets. And, the veterans community is an extraordinary, important market, particularly in today's environment. So as you develop things and have ideas,
I really
it's
appreciate
important to
Gerry. No,
discuss
I
that,
appreciate that a lot because, the reality is we can't do it ourselves. We need partners. And I believe that the people that, have the biggest change and positive impact realize that. And so I can't be an arrogant self and thinking, oh, I'm going to do this all by myself. It's just, no, you need partners. And on that, I appreciated that. I went to a military influencers conference in September, and TikTok was there. And I'm like, whoa, they're interested. So we've been trying to have a relationship with them. But I just really want to thank you for taking the time to come out
pleasure.
here.
Gosh.
You came straight from the airport. I want people to know that. And you've helped out me from an inspiration standpoint.
Thank you.
And motivation, keep going. You know how it is.
Well, what you're doing is making a difference. So therefore, I'm happy to be involved and support you in whatever you do. So,
no, believe me, we welcome it. So I also want to make a note, because I'm not sure, I don't think I did say it. This is the American Legion Ronald Reagan Palisades Post 283. We're part of the largest veteran resource organization in the country, the American Legion. We're in the Palisades. We endured one of the most horrific natural disasters. We're in the middle of recovery, and ongoing recovery efforts in that, in not only our members, but to the community, but we're also keeping the initiatives going. So I have a lot to be grateful for when it comes to American Legion, and even getting to a point where I'm sitting next to a person like Gerry Byrne, who's the vice chairman for Penske Media, so that we can work and collaborate together and do some great stuff. So any last comments you want to say, sir?
No, thank you for making the time, and good luck, and just keep me tuned, and wherever I can help, I'd like to help.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
God bless you.